So I want to revisit those baseline tests today and just see if there's a difference between then and now. So the test that we'll do on the breath side of things is looking at our posture and how maybe that's changed over the duration of the 12 weeks. And then also looking at breath rate and breath length hold. So we'll do that first. And then on the meditation side of things, on the week 3 class, what I introduced you to was the concept of the koshas. So in yoga, there's these various layers that are considered in meditation practice. And we work from the outermost layer to the innermost layer. The outermost is our awareness of our body, and the innermost is this state of mind that we could call selflessness. So we revisit that. And also, what I thought would be really cool is finishing by talking a little bit about the gap. So we chatted about that, not just on the week 3 class about meditation, but it's come up again and again. And I think it's especially relevant now with COVID really peaking in the Bow Valley and so many people being affected, so many people in quarantine and that sort of situation. So really understanding what the gap is and how we can train to widen it so that we can be more in control of our reactions rather than having those reactions be automatic. And so that is the game plan. But first of all, like we always do, we're going to center. So please come into an upright, comfortable position with your hands on your lap and closing your eyes. So now we begin our yoga practice. An important part of this is delineating everything that's happened in our day from this period of time where we'll focus our attention inward on our sense impressions, our thoughts, our minds, for the benefit of our personal development. So the way that we make this centering ritual significant to help us shift our mind frame into that meditative space is by focusing on the breath. First, just observing how the breath is landing in your body today and right now, without trying to change it or control it. Notice if the breath is high and shallow, or if the breath is deep and slow. Without judgment, it doesn't matter so much how it is right now. The most important thing is simply to become aware. And now we start to alter the breath. First, relax the abdomen, the chest. Create space between the arms and the rib cage and make the posture very upright so that the lungs can inflate to their maximum capacity. And then we make the length of the inhale equal to the length of the exhale. And just for about 4 more cycles of breath, maintaining this equal pacing, inhale and exhale. And then opening your eyes and bringing your attention back into the room. We'll do a little bit of stretching before we assess our posture for the neck and the shoulders. So starting first by taking a hand to the opposite side of your head and then drawing your ear to your shoulder. Not really pulling hard, but just guiding. Hi, Mike. As we stretch the side of the neck, we can intensify the stretch by reaching the arm on that same side away. And we inhale coming upright, and then we switch to the opposite side. Just noticing if one side is tighter than the other. And one more cycle of breath. And then when we inhale, coming up, recentering, and just turning the head to the side, like you're shaking your head no, but very slowly. Moving your cervical spine on its full rotational axis to your capacity. And then stopping, turning your nose in line with one knee, and then taking the hand, same side as that knee, to the back of your head and drawing your chin to your chest. So just to clarify, nose in line with the right knee, right hand on the back of the head, chin coming down to the right rib cage. As we do this, we keep the rest of the spine really vertical. One more breath on this side. Inhaling, coming up, and then turning your nose in line with the left knee, left hand to the back of the head, drawing your chin to your rib cage. And just breathing deeply. In this work, we don't really have to pull on the body when we stretch. Because we've learned to master changing the breath ratio and rhythm, we have influence over the nervous system. And just by activating that rest and digest response, the muscles soften. And it's possible to sink deeper into the pose passively. Good. And then inhaling, coming through center to roll the shoulders up and back. So in yoga, slow joint movements are a big part of traditional practice in India. It's called Pavana Muktasana. The concept is very simple. It's use the joint to its full range of motion or lose that full range of motion. Use it or lose it. And it's absolutely true. Now what we're going to do is take our hands, if possible. Now this is an optional one, and I'll have a alternative if it doesn't work. But if you can interlace your fingers behind your back and then straighten your elbows somewhat so that you feel a stretch in the front of the chest, you can do that. Another way that you can do it is take one arm behind, and then you're going to clasp your wrist and then just gently guide that arm diagonally back. And we can do it one at a time. And if neither of those options work well and you're sitting in a chair, you can just take one hand behind your chair. And then with your fingers clasping on the back of the chair, you rotate your torso in the opposite direction. And the goal in all three instances is to stretch the front of the chest. Now, if you're doing a one-sided version, we'll switch to the other side. So that could be holding the back of the chair, clasping a wrist behind your back, or perhaps interlacing fingers and straightening elbows behind you. And coming back to center, this is going to be a side body stretch. So we'll again take index finger and thumb, wrap it around the right wrist, extend the arms straight up and then tilt to your left side. So I'm going to be a mirror image from your perspective. And then inhaling up through center, clasping your left wrist, and then tilting to your side. Good. And we'll release that, shake it out. Any last movement that your body feels like it craves. And then we'll set up. So if on the first three classes you did start a journal to keep track of your practices, maybe take that out again, just because we're going to be comparing the timing of the breath. Now, we'll look at posture. So this will be a little bit difficult unless you happen to have a mirror beside you to really confirm what your posture is looking like now. So the idea is a neutral curve in the spine. So the lumbar spine is concave, the thoracic spine convex, the cervical spine concave. And we want to have all three of those to our capacity in a neutral alignment. And what can be most common for people is that the chin will jut forward. And what we're looking for is more the ear being in alignment with the center of the shoulder. So we pull the chin backwards a little bit. Now we want the jaw parallel with the floor. externally rotating the upper arm bones, and then making sure the chest isn't flaring, but we draw the rib cage in. And then we want the belly to be soft. Well, the idea of proper posture for breath work is to maximize ventilation efficiency. So basically, the more freedom of movement that the rib cage has, the more full the lungs can inflate. And that's our goal. We want the full capacity of our lungs to be accessible so that we can get that full, deep, nourishing breath. And it will help us adjust the timing of our breath so that we can adjust the nervous system. So just checking in with yourself, doing a self-assessment of where your posture is now, maybe compared to our first couple classes. If you feel like it hasn't changed that much, that's okay, no big deal. It's really about awareness of what we want the posture to do, the goal of the posture for our breath work. It's just to create this space for the rib cage to move and the lungs to expand. But also, posture relates directly to stance and balance on skis. So probably if you consider where your stance and balance was at the beginning of your ski season to now, you could use that as your measuring stick. Very likely it's improved over the course of the season. And what happens when our posture improves is two things. One, we learn how to align the spine in between the forces of gravity and ground reaction force and other forces that are acting on the body when we're skiing. And then two, we develop the communication between the brain and the body to be able to maintain that alignment, even when the body is moving through space and getting kicked around by the terrain. The next, what I want to do is revisit our breath ratios and timing. So the first is going to be just measuring what our natural relaxed length of breath is. For most people, the inhale is going to be shorter than the exhale naturally. For some people, they could be equal naturally. And for some people, it could be reversed, but that's less common. But when we first did this on week 2, there was a song that I played. And the song created a metronome, a beat that we could use to create this objective counting for our breath. So I'm going to play that exact same song again. We'll use the counting of the song. So you can hear the beat. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. That's the rhythm. And so now please close your eyes. It'll take a few breaths to really get a fair measurement. We're using this metronome to time the maximum breath length. couple more cycles of breath. And opening your eyes. So just touching base and seeing, has there been a change since 12 weeks ago? So for myself, I remember 12 weeks ago, I maxed out at 6 and 6, and most often I was 4 and 6. This time I was 6 and 8, and that felt really easy for me. So even myself, I've definitely noticed a little bit of an improvement in the maximum breath length. With that considered, I just want to explore breath ratios. So we talked about basically anytime you increase the length of the inhale relative to exhale, that's fight or flight. And the opposite, increasing the length of the exhale relative to inhale, is rest and digest. So I want to focus more on the rest and digest side of things tonight. We'll do a 4-7-8 breath, which is an inhale for 4. Now, if you're someone who is like 6 is really easy, or 10 is a really easy inhale, feel free to make it longer than 4, but keep in mind, after the inhale, we're going to hold for a count of 7, and we're going to exhale for a count of 8. And so when we add that long hold plus the really slow exhale, it can be challenging to go into the realm of like 13, 14, I guess it would be 11, 12. So yeah, feel free to give that a go if you want, but if that is really too challenging, then we'll just shorten everything. So the length of the exhale in any case is going to be double the length of the inhale, and the hold is going to be just shy of the same length as the exhale. So a couple of strategies to make this one easier for yourself is, first of all, to make sure that you relax the belly. And so like we've been doing, being able to puff the belly forward in space on your inhale. With your exhale, you can retract the belly and also the rib cage and the sternum. So those 3 zones we have some access to. We can, by completely drawing that in and expelling all of the air, that's going to make it easier to inhale a deep and full breath. And we'll need that so that when we exhale, we have a big breath to begin with. The other thing that can be really helpful is to just get into a calm state of mind. And whenever we hold the breath, there can be this tendency for the body to kind of tighten. So if we find that's happening, here's a trick. Drop your shoulders away from your ears. This is an incredible signal to the brain. It seems so ridiculously simple, but it works. Drawing tension out of the neck and shoulders is this little communication from the body to the brain that we don't need to be tight, we don't need to be ready for action, everything is fine. And the brain will follow suit with that. So those things in mind, we'll just do a few rounds of 4-7-8 breath. Again, getting into our comfortable posture, hands on your lap and closing your eyes. I'm going to count you through the first 2, and then the next 3 will be in silence. We start by emptying the lungs to inhale. 2, 3, 4. Hold. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Exhale. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Inhale. 2, 3, 4. Hold. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Exhale. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And continue in your own timing. And when you've completed that third round, let's returning to your normal breath rhythm, eyes remaining closed. And then opening your eyes. Well, everybody has a different reaction to breath practice, but for me, that one in particular, I use a lot if I'm having a hard time falling asleep. Works like dynamite. And even now, I can kind of feel that made me a little bit sleepy. That's a good thing. So one more breath practice that I'd like to revisit, more just to review, we won't go through it again, is box breathing. And that one is so foundational. It works in so many cases to create a calm but alert state of awareness. And the concept is the ratio is 1, 1, 1, 1 between inhale, hold, exhale, hold. So that one, it's an even state breath practice. And then, just kidding, I'll share one more just to review. Kapalabhati, the yoga breath practice for activating the nervous system. And it's a forced hyperventilation breath where we forcefully draw the abdomen inward on the exhale, and then we relax the belly so that the inhale is passive. We do this through the nose. So just to quickly demonstrate again, what it looks like is and that one we want to practice in short duration because it can be pretty forceful. Over time, interesting side effect of Kapalabhati can be your abdomen, or pardon me, your abdominal muscles actually strengthen. And some people find that it improves their singing. So interesting side benefit. Okay, so moving into meditation. This has been such a fun thing for me to be able to share with you guys. I've taught yoga for many, many years, but tragically, a lot of people in the West are interested in the physical practice, and very few are interested in the meditation and the philosophy. So it's been really cool to be able to formally teach that for a long duration program. So the 5-layer breath practice, or not, pardon me, 5 layers of awareness in our meditation practice are the Annamaya kosha, which is the physical body, being aware of sensation in the body, and the Pranamaya kosha, which is the energy body, and the Manamaya kosha, which is the emotion body, or more specifically, really being present enough that you can notice the tight coupling between a thought and an emotion, or an emotion and a thought. And then Vishnamaya Kosha, which is thought of as the wisdom body, or the part of your awareness that we could call the observer. So the observer is being able to remove yourself from everything that's happening in your body, your breath, your thoughts, and your emotions, and to just be able to take a step back and observe those things dispassionately, which basically means without getting caught up in any of it. And then lastly, Anandamaya Kosha, which is the state of selflessness, which in peak performance research, we now call transient hypofrontality, which describes the phenomenon of the prefrontal cortex going quiet during periods that demand intense, focused attention. When we practice this in week 3, I guided you through, and when we got to the last 2, that got really tricky for everybody, and that is totally to be expected. Vishnamaya Kosha, or this observer consciousness, and Anandamaya Kosha, or this selflessness experience, those are really uncommon, or I guess they're on the rare side of meditation practice. However, anybody can train it. And so we won't do let it go, because last time that had a funny side effect. It triggered a memory of Frozen. But we won't do that. Instead, we're going to do a recitation of a single syllable word, the word Ram. In Sanskrit, Ram means to stop, to stand still. And basically, that's what we're going to be metaphorically doing with the mind. Instead of having it racing all over the place, we recite the word Ram silently to ourselves. And it's metaphorically going to stop the mind from running all over the place. And really, that's the goal of that 5th layer of perception, Anandamaya Kosha. And with Manamaya Kosha, what I used is a statement to trigger the observer was who or what is having this experience right now. Now, that was a little abstract. And so instead, I'm just going to explain that as we focus our attention more and more acutely from the body to the breath to the emotions and thoughts, we're going to work on focusing the attention single pointedly, just on one thing, and that one thing will be the breath in the moment. It seems like a simple thing to just keep your attention in one moment, but it's challenging. And so it'll require some mental effort. You might actually find you get a little tired when we get to that layer. So with all of that explained, we prepare for our meditation. First, giving the body any movement that it requires. Maybe a sip of water. And then readjusting your position so that you can maintain the seated posture for about 10 minutes. So I close the eyes and start first by scanning the body. Noticing the lowest point of awareness of your body, the foundation. The part closest to the floor. Noticing all sensations in that part of the body. And from that foundation, slowly drawing your awareness up through each segment of the body until you get to the very top of your head. Our plan is to observe the body without judgment. You may notice temperature, pressure, tightness, relaxation. Everything is welcome. Notice if the sensation of the body changes as you pay attention to it. And now, moving in one layer, focus on the breath. Noticing the sensation of the air entering the nostrils and traveling into the back of the throat and down into the lungs, and tracing that return journey. We're now moving one layer deeper, observing emotion and thought. Starting first by scanning your mind for emotion, or more specifically, the mind body. You might be feeling tired, or restless, or agitated, or happy. Whatever it is, we notice it without judgment. Once you center in on an emotion that you've identified, it's very likely that there's a thought or thoughts that are connected to that emotion. You can inquire by silently asking yourself, what is this emotion about? Where is it coming from? And just like we observe the emotion without judgment, also the thoughts that go with, we observe without judgment. And now moving a layer deeper to the observer perspective. For a moment, imagine that you're like a camera lens and you're going to zoom out to take in the whole perspective of your inner awareness, your inner experience. Observe without judgment and without getting caught up in any of it. Everything that's arising in your mind and body right now. As you notice each mental projection, you can label it silently. And then notice how it changes, it transforms, it fades. And none of these things are actually you. You are simply the observer of all of these projections. You are separate. None of these projections, be it a thought, an emotion, change in your energy, or a sensation in your body, none of this is you. You are separate. And now moving to the final layer, focusing your entire attention on one point. And now it's like you're taking that camera lens and you're zooming in to a laser-like point on your breath. exerting gentle mental effort to constantly come back to this moment and this moment and this moment over and over again. And now, the deepest level, silently reciting the word Ram, 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 and continue reciting this one word to the exclusion of any other thought or feeling. Dissolve into the internal sound of that word. Nothing else matters except the recitation of Ram, Ram, Ram. Now we reverse and softening, allowing your awareness to move beyond that single pointed focus to a broader perspective. Again, starting to notice emotions and thoughts. Now just noticing your normal, relaxed breath and your energy level. And lastly, taking your attention from the very top of your head and scanning your whole body from the top to the bottom of your awareness. And now just moving your fingers and your toes to wake up the body. And opening your eyes. And so that entire sequence, those 5 layers of meditation, meditators can use an entire lifetime to work on mastering just one of those. And most only get to the second layer. For top performers, as I mentioned previously, top performers, top athletes, top business people, top performers in all spheres of life get to the level where they're able to create a little bit of space between stimulus and response, the gap. That's layer 3. And then people who are the masters, the gurus, the top teachers and coaches in various disciplines, those tend to be people who have gotten to level 4, people who are able to remove themselves and maintain the perspective of the observer without judgment, without getting caught up in anything. These are people that tend to be leaders. They're uniquely able to take in an entire situation and then just look at it objectively and make decisions from that somewhat removed perspective. And then the people who tend to get to that last level, pretty much anyone can. That transient hypofrontality, that selflessness can happen to anyone, anytime you suddenly need your entire focus to be pointed right on an absolute tiniest of dots. And that can happen a lot for athletes. But for people who've really mastered that 5th level, they're able to reproduce that state of mind on demand. And that usually is reserved for the Adi yogis, the Brahmin, the guru, and for anyone who puts in the time and does a lot of practice. So the gap, really our main focus as athletes seeking top level performance, is we learn over time that stimulus and situations will arise. Some of them we have control over, and a lot we don't. Now, there's an ancient philosophy that arose in Greece called Stoicism. If you're not familiar with that, I highly recommend Googling it and learning about Stoicism. It's a really powerful paradigm, a powerful way to think about and move through the world. And the first tenet is asking yourself a question whenever a situation arises that can be difficult. And this single question, this very important question is, Do I have control over this? Yes or no? And if the answer is yes, then do whatever it is you have to do in order to solve that problem or engage with that situation in a way that will help you get to your desired outcome. If the answer is no, just let it go. You can't control it, and so no reason to get upset by it. So that concludes our 12-week series of breath and meditation practices for peak performance on skis and in life. It's been such a privilege for me to be able to share this with you guys over the past 12 weeks. Thank you so very much.